Listen up, racists. Yeah, you know who you are. Having the temerity to argue that countries should have functioning borders? Disgusting. Well, I've got news for you. You just got owned by the queen of virtue signalling himself, Mr. Gary Lineker.
Britain wouldn't be Britain without fish and chips, a national institution, a culinary delight.
Oi, Gary, have you ever thought about where I actually come from?
Well, I suppose not.
You've got refugees to thank for me.
Stunning, eloquent, powerful.
You've got refugees to thank for me.
Fish and chips exist. So fuck borders.
Funnily enough, it was another refugee who decided to bring me and Fishface together back in the 1860s.
It's true. A guy called Joseph Malin opened the nation's first ever fish and chip shop.
First off, this is highly disputed. Other sources say it was Lancashire's John Lees who opened the first chip shop, but for the sake of argument, let's say you're right. Joseph Malin was a legal immigrant. He didn't illegally enter the country anonymously on a boat, having paid off criminal people smugglers. Also, hate to break it to you, Gary, but most of them aren't refugees. Most of them are coming from France. Last time I checked, there's no war in France. There's no organised violent persecution in France. Strange. Almost like they're coming for a different reason. Almost like that free taxi service, free taxpayer-funded hotel, food and welfare has got something to do with it.
Hello. You're right.
Britain wouldn't be Britain without refugees.
Yeah, I'm sure the next Alexander Graham Bell or Tim Berners-Lee is just waiting to be plucked from this lot. And let's not forget the crucial point that incentivising the dangerous crossing of boat migrants leads to the death of more migrants. When Salvini said migrants wouldn't be rescued by Italian patrol boats, he halved the number of migrant deaths because they stopped making the deadly journeys. The compassionate position, the truly humanitarian position that saves lives, is to have strong border controls. What Lineker and his ilk are pushing under the guise of bleeding heart progressivism is literally the opposite. It's literally leading to many more of these migrants drowning to death. Now, let's take a look at that ratio. This video's less popular than Jimmy Savile at a children's birthday party. Comments are turned off. Gee, I wonder why. Couldn't be because its entire premise is a giant bag of wank, could it? I mean, I'm totally convinced that we should completely erase our borders because some French dude 200 years ago decided to put battered fish and chips together.
Britain wouldn't be Britain without refugees.
I mean, it's not like a boat refugee who the Royal Navy personally rescued from Libya went on to massacre dozens of kids at an Ariana Grande concert. It's not like the majority of the Paris massacre terrorists directly exploited the same criminal refugee pipeline that Gary supports to enter Europe. It's not like ISIS brags about how it smuggled sleeper cell jihadists into Europe via the refugee pipeline. It's not like only a few months ago, one of the refugees being housed at a taxpayer-funded hotel in Glasgow went on a rampage and stabbed 6 people. It's not like, according to Trevor Phillips, the chairman of the Commission for Equality and Human Rights, the UK's violent crime epidemic is being fueled by refugees. It's not like we literally have to build diversity barriers below refugees' welcome signs. It's not like, according to German government statistics, migrants brought in on the refugee wave were directly responsible for a spike in violent crime. It's not like the mass molestation of 1,000 women in Cologne even happened. And it's not like mass migration fueled the rise of grooming gangs across Britain. And even if any of that did happen, some French immigrant 200 years ago battered a fish. So fuck border controls, right?
Britain wouldn't be Britain without refugees.
I mean, does Lineker have so much contempt for the British public that he seriously thinks they're stupid enough to believe that a relative handful of smart, hard-working migrants arriving in Britain 200 years ago is in any way comparable to what's happening today? A record 400 migrants crossed the Channel in a single day this week. The boats are now literally queued up as they arrive in Dover.
We're just coming alongside, you might be able to see in the distance, the 4th boat of migrants that we have seen so far today. Where have you come from? We have seen 3 boats already. This is the 4th one.
7,500 migrants have arrived on these boats since January 2019. Amidst a global pandemic and routine terrorist plots against our country, we have absolutely no idea who's coming in. Them cod and chips, though.
You've got refugees to thank for me.
Also, when you use the benefit of culinary diversity to promote mass immigration, another thought springs to mind. Lineker has BTFO'd the haters by promising to take a refugee into his own home.
Gary Lineker destroys mocking Tory MP with proof he's offering to house refugees when his statement was attacked by another Twitter user, who asked him, "Have you housed any yet, Gary?" The former England striker replied, "Not yet," accompanied by a screenshot of an email from a refugee sheltering charity proving he had submitted an offer to host a guest.
And I'm sure that totally isn't a virtue-signalling publicity stunt at all. I'm sure Gary will follow in the footsteps of other celebrity lovies like Bob Geldof and Lily Allen, both of whom promised to take in a refugee and both of whom ended up doing fuck all. Let's hope Lineker follows through. Unlike when he promised to attend that rally in support of refugees and failed to show up. Maybe in housing a refugee, Gary is trying to increase the diversity of where he lives, because where he lives, not very diverse. Esher is over 90% white. That's whiter than England as a whole, which is saying a lot given it's located in the southeast. Funny that one of the biggest proponents of multiculturalism chooses to live in one of the least multicultural areas of the country. But at least Gary can taste true diversity by hopping across to his other house in Barnes. Oh no, that's in one of the whitest areas of London too. Seems like Gary's all for diversity, just not where he lives.
Britain wouldn't be Britain without refugees.
104 upvotes to 4,600 downvotes. Wow, almost like everyone thinks Gary's full of shit. Surely not. YouGov poll, 42% see it as merely a publicity stunt compared to 27% who think it's a genuine act of kindness. Wow, almost like everyone thinks Gary's full of shit. How could anyone think that Gary's being anything other than righteously honest when he talks about the plight of refugees? I mean, it's not like he denounced anyone who dared suggest that these refugees weren't children as hideously racist, right? Oh yeah, he actually did do that. And 2/3 of Calais refugee children turned out to be adults. But aside from age, what type of refugee is Gary going to allow into his multi-bedroom Surrey mansion?
You have been selected to stay at Gary Lineker's house in his spare room.
I mean, as we've been told so many times, there are thousands of doctors and lawyers amongst them, so Gary's going to be spoilt for choice.
As we know, refugees have always helped to keep our communities safe and make our society stronger.
Really? That wasn't the conclusion of an exhaustive peer-reviewed study by academics at the University of Copenhagen, seeking to answer whether continued immigration and corresponding growing ethnic diversity was having a positive impact on community cohesion. The study found the opposite to be the case. Studying existing literature and also carrying out a meta-analysis of 1,001 estimates from 87 studies, the researchers concluded, quote, "We find a statistically significant negative relationship between ethnic diversity and social trust across all studies." But diversity's a strength. Is the public really that stupid to believe that Lineker engaging in a woke gesture by housing a single refugee is in any way a rebuttal to the logistical question of what to do with hundreds of migrants, almost all of them young men, arriving on our shores illegally on a daily basis, safely ensconced within his multi-million-pound luxury abode, and with a net worth of 28 million, the negative effects of mass immigration will never impact a pampered, privileged prima donna like Gary Lineker. But when it comes to housing, welfare, security, identity, and social cohesion, the impact on working-class Brits is real. But according to Gary, they're all dense, bigoted Brexit gammon anyway, so who cares? While Lineker's wealth allows him to remain far removed from such concerns, his £1.75 million BBC paycheck may now be at risk. Bowing to public pressure, the BBC has appointed a new Director General who has vowed to do the unthinkable. Change the BBC's output to reflect the true diversity of opinion of the nation by hopefully phasing out the kind of woke nonsense epitomised by someone like Gary Lineker. The long march through the institutions may have just hit a roadblock, but I'm sure that wherever on TV Gary ends up, he'll be sure to bring with him his insufferable, sanctimonious white guilt pantomime act.
Well, there you go.
Olá pessoal, tudo bem? Aqui é o tradutor, eu tô passando para te avisar que eu tô numa campanha para conseguir pelo menos mais 9 apoiadores até o final do ano. Esse canal não é monetizado, então totalmente depende de você, eu preciso muito do seu apoio para manter esse canal atualizado e vivo, né, no ar. Os links para apoiar esse nosso projeto estão na descrição desse vídeo e no comentário fixado. Então é muito fácil e muito simples de apoiar. É graças a essas pessoas incríveis que eu posso estar trazendo conteúdo para vocês. O Warlei, a Sandra, a Majestade, o Thiago, o Antônio, o Arthur, o Carlo, a Erika, o Rubens, o Caio, o Flávio, o Gustavo, o Vunho, a Spanish.vaz, o Eduardo e a Renata. E é isso aí, pessoal. Não se esqueçam de deixar seu like, seu comentário e até mais. Fui! Grande abraço.